Good morning. Welcome again to DOTAUT, doing business in Palau. So this is the only talk show in Palau that doesn't talk about politics or news. What we talk about are actual practical work-related, business-related, economically related, entrepreneurial related things that are happening in the country with people who make a difference, people who share with us what can be beneficial to everyone who live in Palau. So we are very fortunate to have with us a very special guest today on DOTAUT, His Excellency Ambassador Joel Ehrendreich. And I'm very happy also that he brought Joyce Isal with him. So if in case you would like to say something in Palauan, Joyce, you'll be able to. But I'm very grateful, Ambassador, for you to be with us today. So I just want to say thank you and welcome you again to DOTAUT. And today we're going to specifically have a conversation about the Compact of Free Association. And so let me first say I am so grateful that it's been signed, the review agreement has been signed, and here we are. So why don't I give you the floor and you can open our show with what you'd like to share today.
All right, well, first of all, Irene, thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you for lending me the Mar, which is in my Milwaukee Brewers colors. That's very special to me. And I just want to start by saying, you know, we, the United States, are equally thrilled that the Compact of Free Association, the Compact Review Agreement, has been signed. I think this is really a significant moment for U.S.-Palau relations and something that is going to ensure that our unique bilateral relationship continues for the next 20 years. The next 20 years starts like right now for the U.S. and Palau.
Wow. Yes, Joyce, would you share when was the last compact supposed to end? So we can start from here on.
The compact was not end, but was up for review in 2024. But Ambassador Hyatt in the last administration started, instead of waiting until 2024, they started with the FSM and the Marshals in dealing with the United States, starting the talks back in I'd like to say 2018 or 2019 when they started the talks in FSM, and that was the beginning of the starting of looking for the compact review that has been signed on March 10th or March 9th.
Was March 9th when Biden signed it?
March 9th,
the Saturday.
Yes, I remember. We all got the good news being shared everywhere. So we're blessed to have our, I would say he's one of our favorites because he loves baseball. Ambassador Ehrendreich it's in during his duty that this compact has been signed. That's history for Palau. So perhaps we can start with some questions and you can help us understand it more and for people to understand it, the benefits of what has been signed. And I welcome everyone. If they have questions, they can always send us an email. Because today we're not live streamed, but it of course will be uploaded and everyone will be watching this on television. Both channels, 24 and 38, and it'll be on the internet as well. And so we welcome people who have questions to send us emails to dotautEMS@gmail.com. That's DOTAUTEMS@gmail.com. And we will, of course, route the questions to your office, and so you guys will be have time to answer the questions. So let's start with my first question, Ambassador. Can you elaborate on the key objectives and provisions of the recently signed Compact of Free Association Review Agreement between Palau and the U.S.?
Yeah, before I do, you gave me the opening, so let me tell you how excited I am to be going to the Little League baseball opening day. I know this will probably not air until after, but when we're filming it, the opening is tomorrow. I'm just thrilled I get to be a part of that.
All right.
Okay, turning back to the COFA agreement, though. Like I said at the outset, the primary objective of the COFA, overarching reason that we have it, is it serves as a foundation for our relationship. It defines what we will do as partners. And the main provisions that we can get into more detail later if you want, but of this compact review agreement it has specified the financial assistance the United States will provide Palau for the next 20 years in the areas of things such as grant assistance, infrastructure, debt relief, and building up Palau's trust fund.
Oh, that's wonderful. I like to think of it, it's more than just a partnership. It's really kind of like a marriage between these two countries. So we have to really work both ways.
Okay, if you're saying it's a marriage, then what we just did is we renewed our vows.
Yes,
for the next 20 years.
Vows. Yes, so thank you. So my next question was, I was going to ask if you could just address sort of what you've seen so far since you've been in Palau, the evolving needs of Palau, and the continued cooperation between the two nations.
Well, it's been clear to me that Palau needs assistance in economic recovery coming out of the COVID years. And so that's why I think this new compact review agreement is so important for Palau, because not only does it give the Palauan government the financial assistance it needs to be able to run the various ministries, but it also will help Palau pay off debt that it had to incur unforeseen circumstances caused by COVID.
Yes, the recent pandemic. Thank you so much for that, because as you know, I'm very honored that you chose this show to be first interviewed about the compact and the signing of the compact, because it's economic recovery has always been our number one topic on this show. And of course, all the other shows, you might have seen me on other shows, whenever there's complaints, I often say, I don't think that's the most important thing. I think economic recovery is the most important thing. And so thank you. We came out of COVID and uncertainties and all that. The signing of this compact has really put a lot of assurance and help people to be rest assured. So thank you for that. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what specific financial assistance and support does the U.S. commit to providing Palau under this agreement, and how will it contribute to our economic development?
Okay, so happy to do so. It'll take me a couple minutes because it's a complex agreement. But to start with, the United States will provide Palau with $20 million per year in grant assistance. So grant assistance is money that we will give the government of Palau to run, the government with a particular emphasis, or actually it's specified that this money should go to health, education, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and then law and order, so the judiciary and public safety. And then in addition to that, there's money for infrastructure, so $5 million per year in new infrastructure, an additional $5 million per year in infrastructure maintenance. So this will allow it to build new schools or new roads. It's up to the government. A hospital is probably, let's talk about that more in just a minute, because that's not maybe specific to this money, but it's connected, yes. But then in addition to the new construction projects, I think it's so important that it's planned, the maintenance is planned. And so there's $5 million a year for infrastructure maintenance. Some other countries will build something for you and it's nice and shiny, and then 2 years later it's falling apart, and that's we want to avoid that. So in addition to the grant assistance and infrastructure money, then like I mentioned, there's going to be $10 million a year for 6 years to assist Palau in paying off the COVID-related debt. So whether that's ADB or any place where Palau has incurred debt, we're gonna help with that. And then there's $100 million that is $50 million over 2 years that will go to plussing up Palau's what's it called?
Trust fund.
Trust fund. Thank you.
Okay.
So that'll take the trust fund to a new level, and then it's up to Palau to decide how to use that, whether to let it sit and earn more interest and grow, or draw down from it for, now we can maybe talk about it for a second, for maybe larger infrastructure projects, such as a hospital. So, you know, the $5 million a year, that wouldn't be enough to build a new hospital, but if Palau chooses to draw down from the trust fund, maybe with that and some other donor coordination, things like a hospital or a port or something like that might become more possible. Okay, so there, I'm not done. So those were the things that were specified in the Compact Review Agreement. But then the United States Congress needed to approve the agreement, and when they were doing that, they added some more benefits for Palau, which I think are very exciting. So the first one is better health services for veterans from the United States Veterans Administration. So now it is authorized, but we'll need to negotiate. The two governments will need to negotiate. But it is now authorized for Palauan veterans to receive in-country veterans at VA care, and if their problems are so serious that they need to travel, you know, to Guam or Hawaii or whatever it is, perhaps that travel would be reimbursable.
Oh, wow.
As well. Other authorizations for things such as telehealth and mailing prescriptions to the mail. I do need to specify here the difference between authorization and appropriation. This is, like I told some people yesterday, I learned this the hard way through my mother. When I was a kid, I'd say, "Mom, can I go to the candy store? Can I go to the candy store?" And be no, no, no. But then yes, one day she said yes. That was the authorization. Yes, you can go to the candy store. And I said, "Okay, give me some money." And she's like, "I'm not giving you money." And I had to keep asking. It's when she finally gave me money, that was the appropriation.
Correct.
So what Congress has done now is they have authorized, for the first time, this is a major step, for the VA, the Veterans Administration, to provide these services to Palauans. Now we're going to need a year or so to figure out how we're going to pay for that.
The appropriation part.
Yeah, and what's legal in the two countries' systems and things like that. Okay, and then in addition to the VA benefits, Congress provided authorizations for enhanced education benefits.
Nice.
So whether that's for disabled students in Palau, or Head Start, early Head Start, so families that need assistance with preschool education for their kids. Hopefully we'll have some resources for that. And then I think what's a really exciting possibility ahead, there's an authorization for Palauans who seek to go to public universities in the United States, that they would be able to apply as though they were in-state students. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know how much we had to pay during our time before Joyce and my generation.
Right.
And Irene, I think that's a plus to a good news for the scholarship office here in Palau. Because if more students go to the public universities, that means more can go, because the scholarship will can give out more money for more students.
Yes, that's
and that's a blessing.
That is truly a blessing. Yes, thank you so much. Well, I'm sure there's more benefits you can share. First of all, I want to say the fact that it is grants, that is a huge blessing for Palau, because we already had debts. We've accumulated debt over the COVID period, and I think our economy is not ready to just jumpstart and say, "Yay, we're in the black now. We get ready to pay off our debts." So, thank you to the U.S. for being a huge big brother, to help us out with a grant, first of all, to help us with all of these benefits with new infrastructure, maintenance, and yes, with the weather. I agree with Ambassador. People have to think about maintenance and education and health. Thank you. That's amazing. Now, as you know me already, I'm really about entrepreneurships, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that you not only give people fish, you teach them how to fish. And so people in Palau, especially during the COVID period, the pandemic years, I started to find out that people, especially young people, when they are given opportunities to really look deep inside themselves and say, hey, I actually have gifts and talents. I actually have a passion to cook or to do something. And you just need to provide them opportunities and capacity building, training. And sometimes they really can become self-sufficient by first helping themselves and then starting to contribute to the society. So my other question was, within the scope of economic development, are any of the specific financial assistance focused on entrepreneurship programs to support and promote local entrepreneurs in Palau?
So nothing in the Compact Review Agreement specific to entrepreneurship, but the one thing I want to emphasize is, while this is a huge, significant step for the bilateral relationship, we have ongoing work at the embassy. And so the United States has long felt that entrepreneurship is a key driver to economic growth. And so we believe that at the embassy too. We are looking for ways that we can help promote an ecosystem of entrepreneurship here in Palau. I can't announce anything yet, but I'm more than willing to work with you and others here in Palau to really try to drive some good entrepreneurship spirit here.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. As long as we have those same values and principles, exactly. I really do believe that it's good to help Palau to also become strong, as a strong partner of the United States. Now let's talk about security. Security cooperation, what are the main areas of focus outlined in the COFA agreement, and how do they benefit both Palau and the U.S.? Okay,
so here's another place where I need to make a differentiation. So when we talk about the COFA, we're actually talking about the 1994 agreement that had provisions for economic assistance and the military and security cooperation that our two countries would have. What was passed last week by Congress and signed by President Biden is the Compact Review Agreement, which is updating just portions of the overall COFA agreement.
Gotcha.
So that what we updated was the financial assistance parts.
Wonderful.
What remains the same will be the security cooperation agreement that was agreed to in 1994. So the same military and security agreements that we had will remain in place in perpetuity, as was called for. But talking about the economic benefits, as you well know, our military activities here in Palau have an enormous benefit for the people of Palau economically. It's estimated that through our training and exercises that took place last year alone, an estimated $24 million was spent on hotels and restaurants and souvenirs and food and the water taxis that had to go to and from the Mercy ship and all of that. So and I was just
tourism.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just down in Palau again a week or two ago with the Secretary of the Navy, and the Marines who are doing such great work down there, they're not staying in like Marine Corps tents, are staying in the hotels.
Yes.
And, that's a.
I went there. They're all full.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a room. At least we have relatives.
Yeah, that's good because it's good news for the Palau economy.
For the entrepreneurs in Palau. The business people. That's great news, and thank you for that. Now that you mentioned COFA 1994, I just want, since Joyce is with us today, I want to share with you so we can connect the past to the current. So. It was signed by former President Kuniwo Nakamura, who is no longer with us. However, the true father of the COFA was former President Lazarus Eita Salih. She was directly his right hand, and I was a student intern.
Really?
Fresh out of high school. Yes, so she could order me around, and she and others who were in the president's office. And that's the whole reason why I learned so much about the COFA. And I'm very happy that we're, from that beginning, from President Lazarus Salih, who began the work of COFA, the relationship between the U.S., we really have to pay tribute also to him because he started it between the U.S. and Palau, that wonderful relationship, partnership.
Absolutely.
And you remember how we went 8 times all around, it took years to help people understand.
This is a full circle for me, Irene, because I started back then. We had 8 plebiscites, and so from the first time, I was a young lady, working woman, and going around campaigning for the compact. It was not necessarily just for me as a young, but I wanted that freedom. As I was growing up, I was hearing stories from the war, from my parents, before the war and after the war. And so when they were talking about it, what they went through, and
hardships.
Yes, and then during the trust territory time, when I was enjoying the Peace Corps, when I was growing up, I had my Peace Corps teachers, Ms. Lynn Paloy.
Same here.
God, thank you, she's still here, and amazing woman, and all the others, and it proved to me. And after a while, I was in Saipan. I went to school in Saipan, and I lived at the trust territory compound with my uncle, and so I saw a lot of it, of that operation from the trust territory. And when I came back in the 80s, I said, I want that freedom.
Yes.
I want that freedom. The U.S. Came and liberated. They gave me a freedom, and all the others older than me, to be taught in the U.S. U.S. platform, and to be free to think and say and express my feelings and my thoughts.
Through human rights.
Yes, and so I wanted that not just for me, but for all the others, young ones coming thereafter. I wanted to be able to use my my left hand, if I could write with my left hand, and not to be forced to use my right hand only. So that's the freedom. There was a personal freedom that I tasted, and I wanted that. Not for me, but for all the others thereafter. And so from that time to the 8th plebiscite, when it finally got entered into, it was 1994, when it was the first signing, and under President Nakamura, thank God for him, that he also spearheaded the second.
And he was an economist, by the way.
He was an economist, a former senator, a teacher, and then became a senator, and eventually became a president, and thank God for him. He also went on with that Palau's choice for the Compact of Free Association with the United States. And so from that, back to the Compact Review with the former President Johnson Toribio, and then now with this second CRA with Ambassador Hyatt under her wing, and now the signing of the the signing of this. It's just amazing when you think you're coming in full circle, but that's how old I am.
Well, I love that full circle.
Yeah, it's a full circle.
That full circle, you know how we are in Palau with the moon and our flag.
All right, yeah.
That full circle is beautiful. And, I'm a huge believer, Ambassador, that things from the source are meant to happen at a certain time, a certain day with certain people, because President Lazarus Salih, I was an intern for him. First time, he was very old school. He'd write his speech on yellow pad. Edit my speech. I used to carry around the dictionary to try and learn. They wanted me to learn fast, and they were all sort of like cousins and relatives. Come on, you have to do this, you have to do this. So Cambes Casole and I were actually interns under the president's office, and we were grateful for Joyce and Margaret and Istu, David Mirmidol. Some of them have passed, Bonifacio, but it was a great team. Having to go around 8 times in several years to try and get people to understand the Compact of Free Association was exciting times in Palau, because it was not easy. It was very challenging.
Well, and that's one of the most, I'm glad you talk about like coming around full circle and when we were all younger, because one of the most rewarding things about this, a compact for the next 20 years, is that, I appreciate this is going to affect the next generation, right? I was talking about going to the Little League tomorrow. Those are the people who are going to be, you know, in the workforce when this is still going on. So that's really rewarding.
Thank you for going to the Little League. I think the ambassador, you know, cheering on the little baseball players is so awesome. Yeah, and full circles don't end there. You're going to go share with the kids. It'll be like us when I was young under their administration. And then Kuniwo, as I became an adult, an economist who really signed the compact in 1994. I would love to pay tribute to him as well. He gave me my very first business license, and I was in my early 20s. So it is so appropriate for you to be here this morning talking about the economic side of the review agreement. So my question would be, let's go to the environmental and conservation side. How does the agreement address sustainability and environmental conservation in Palau, and what initiatives are planned?
Okay, so I touched on it before, but the assistance, the $20 million of annual assistance is earmarked for the specific areas of education, health, climate adaptation and mitigation, and then law and order. So it's going to be up to the government of Palau how to divide up that money for those specific purposes. But there will now be more money than we had, dramatically more money than we had been giving in the past for Palau to use. And so I think that's one of the best benefits of the agreement, is that it's going to be up to Palau to decide. It's not the U.S. prescribing it must be on this project at this time. It's going to be up to Palau. So
it's nice to know that, because it's up for people like us at this generation. It's up to us to also train our younger generation to be better at financial management and making good decisions, and be strong with anti-corruption ethics and all that stuff, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. I think you've already kind of shared about the healthcare support, so and the education and capacity building. So how about cultural preservation and exchanges between Palau and the United States? I think you knew I was going to ask you that, right? Yeah. How does the agreement support cultural preservation in Palau?
So there's nothing specific in terms of cultural preservation. You know, maybe if the government of Palau decides to use some of the money under, you know, the auspices of education, you know, that again, that's up to Palau to decide. But like I said, we have ongoing work at the embassy every day that's going to, you know, to reinforce what's in the Compact Review Agreement. And there is, we have an Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. So right now, we are using that fund to pay for the best study to date of the earthworks, the terraces in Imalik State. And so there are drones flying overhead with special radars on them to, you know, to see what's going on there. And then the goal of that is to build a museum.
Yes.
You know, that Palauans, that'll be a few more Palauan jobs. Palauans will run the museum, and then they will be able to tell not only tourists who are coming to see the terraces what they're about, but Palauan students, and hopefully, you know, the cultural preservation will be that they'll be able to tell these stories for years, generations to come.
That's wonderful to know. I think a lot of people in Palau who live in Palau have traveled to the U.S. And I must say, Joyce, you know, the national parks system of the United States is very well organized and well preserved. I have hiked, I have, you know, camped, I've had many occasions visited many of the national parks. There's clean bathrooms, there's, you know, water, there's, it's managed very well, where some parks, there's not even someone there, but people just out of pure integrity, they would put what they need to pay in an envelope and put it inside the entrance of the park. So I really appreciate the relationship with the U.S. in terms of preserving culture, thinking about building a museum. And then, as you know, Ambassador, I'm going to come from the part where we want to support the local entrepreneurs to keep making lace and baskets and carving storyboards and be part of the culture.
And that's why I think an entrepreneur might have good ideas what to do with that museum. And I should add, we're refurbishing the Palau War Memorial Museum as
Yes.
well. So we're going to move it. I guess the old museum is kind of falling apart. We're going to move it to a much safer location and look at, you know, can we sell T-shirts or other artifacts? Things like
I
that.
had the pleasure of meeting with Susan Jamerson, or Susie or Susan Jamerson, and a young man who are helping with the museum in Peleliu. And so they're like excited that maybe we could work parallel, where I help the people who live in Peleliu to be able to be self-employed, and then help with the museum and with the traditional and cultural stuff.
Great.
So that's wonderful. So I think with economic cooperation initiatives that are included in this review agreement for our compact, I do believe that the U.S. also would be helping Palau just from this signing and looking forward. I know that they will be looking to Palau to try and diversify our economy. So not only be dependent on just tourism, but as you say, Palauans have to decide what to do with this 20 million each year. So with your help and with your inspiration to people who will be watching this show, I really look forward to helping more Palauans to be entrepreneurs, to be in the businesses of creating not only restaurants and laundromats, but really be in the innovation and creative digital era, you know, to try and help with how we can diversify our economy.
I couldn't agree more. And of course, you know, at the heart of the Compact Review Agreement is the United States seeks to help Palau with its economic stability. That's what this is all about. And economic stability will then give the entrepreneurs the confidence that they can try out their idea, that they can pursue their business goals. You know better than anyone. Entrepreneurship, sometimes you have successes, sometimes you have failures.
Yeah, you take a lot of risks.
What Palau needs, what every country needs, is a ecosystem, an environment where people can at least take that risk, take the chance, and, you know, hopefully succeed.
I couldn't agree with you more, Ambassador. Thank you for that. The bottom line is we have peace, and thanks to the Compact Review Agreement, you know, as long as we have peace and we know that we're, you know, in secured environment, then we can continue to work on making a more business-friendly environment for our economic growth. So my last question would be, how does the agreement establish mechanisms for consultation and review to ensure effective implementation and address any issues that may arise during the partnership between Palau and the U.S.?
Right. Well, first of all, I don't anticipate conflicts because one of the best aspects of this was well negotiated between two sides that shared interests. You know, it wasn't like the United States said, take this agreement or we're going to shut off all tourism to your country. You know, it's something that both sides, I think, are happy with. But in terms of oversight and management, that's actually something that I understand the two sides both asked for, was enhanced oversight. So to start with, there's specific language in the agreement that says none of this money should go to the offices of the president or the OEK or the judiciary, or nor should it go in just blind grants to the states. You know, so this money's not to buy new cars for politicians.
Correct.
Or put, you know, new furniture in their offices. Yeah. And so then, also included in the agreement are specifics on monitoring and reporting. So Palau has to provide an annual report on where every dollar that has been provided in compact funds has been spent. There's an annual audit that is required. And we have a couple of groups, an economic advisory group and a bilateral economic consultation that are going to help oversee the implementation in the compact. So that economic advisory group, I love it. I know you're familiar with it. Those are private sector individuals from the Palau side and from the U.S. side that are going to help Palau with its economic strategy and economic growth. And then we have the bilateral economic consultation. Those are government-to-government economic specialists, and they're going to review, is Palau using the compact money appropriately. Should there ever be an instance where the United States feels that money's being misdirected, we are able then to enter into like a mini negotiation. Consultation.
Yeah.
Tell Palau, hey, we think that, you know, we need better oversight here, some money's missing. And then Palau has a chance to rectify that.
Yeah, that's wonderful to know. Thank you so much for sharing.
I just want to mention that the ambassador, when he was talking and listed the money that's going into health, education, climate change, infrastructure, maybe we're just thinking, you hear that and you're just thinking about the big things. But really, if you think about entrepreneurship, you think in a smaller version of what person can do. There are opportunities there, and you just need to connect with the hospital, the education, the CIP. What are the things that they run into that are problems or lacking in the community? And maybe it's a very small service, and they would need a business or somebody to provide that service, but it's not available. They don't know anyone. And those are the opportunities where it comes out.
Yes.
Are standing out.
Yes.
So we need to think in that way.
Be creative.
Proactive and be creative. And start seeking and looking at when they do these activities at health and education, what are other things that they do that they run into and would need those kind of service.
Yeah.
We have to be open to start new things that are not just tourism related.
Yeah.
And it's all in there. But you gotta look for it.
Absolutely.
And think about it.
I couldn't agree with her more. I've always said to the CEO of PPUC, the Palau Public Utilities Corporation, like, every time our tree grows into the lines, we have to call you and ask your boys to bring that big truck with a bucket and go, why wouldn't you just allow these young men, let's train them to be a co-op, let's have them form their own little tree trimming company.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
The hospital can use them, everybody can use them, and they get paid, and you know, so that's a good example. And you know, I really don't like to go and see maintenance people just sitting around waiting for their paycheck. You know that, Ambassador. I would rather that if they have time on their hands, they would be of service to someone else. Yeah, both public and private sector. And that's really our true Palauan culture. We don't segregate and say you're in the public or private sector. You know, we see things that need to get done and everyone pitches in, contributes. And so I've taught my DOTAUT team of entrepreneurs, I said, it's a new word we gotta use. That's the best English word I could use to explain the Palauan Kleibelao of economy. It's called co-opetition.
Co-opetition.
Yes, it's cooperation.
I love that.
You marry cooperation with competition and you get co-opetition. That means you can compete, but compete to help each other to get better.
Wow,
Win-win
that's
for
great.
all.
I love that.
Win-win for all. Yes, and that's really our true Palauan economic foundation. So we just, let's continue to work together. And I'm really excited and very happy. This is a huge blessing for Palau, for the US, for everyone. So I'm going to allow you to just say your closing remarks, what you'd like to leave for the audience who will be watching the show, and then we can close.
Okay, again, thank you so much. It's been wonderful being here talking with you. This, like I said, this is a really significant moment for our relationship. The future starts right now. A win-win for both countries. Really worth celebrating.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Irene.
And thank you, everyone, for being with us on DOTAUT, Tokoy Reor, doing business in Palau. Until next time. Bye.